Fighting continues in Syria on day 4 of what was supposed to be a temporary ceasefire. A car bomb went off near Damascus on Monday. The blast killed 10, injured another 41. Fighting also erupted in the Kurdish city of Afrin. At least 20 people were killed when Kurdish fighters clashed with members of the Free Syrian Army. Kurdish communities living in Syria are trying to isolate themselves from the fighting, but as Tony Chang reports, many have found themselves in the crossfire.
Travelling in the Syrian countryside is not easy these days. Little traffic on the roads, scared off by the jet fighters and helicopters that roam the skies, especially on the Damascus-Aleppo highway. Much of northwestern Syria is now under the control of anti-government forces, although air and artillery attacks continue. But one small corner has remained neutral. This checkpoint marks the beginning of territory controlled by the opposition Kurdish Democratic Union Party, the PYD. It's manned by the men and women fighters of their own defense force. An uneasy truce exists between the Kurds, the government and the Free Syrian Army. They don't attack and the Kurds don't get involved. There have been clashes elsewhere, but for the moment the Kurds have secured the enclave around the city of Afrin. Inside the city, Syrian government offices have been taken over by a new Kurdish administration. They tell me they aren't seeking a separate Kurdish state. But on the wall, a portrait of Öcalan, the man who fought against Turkish rule for a free Kurdistan until his arrest 13 years ago.
He was someone who struggled against injustice for Kurdish rights. Of course we have good feelings towards the PKK because they also have something to fight for. But it's not because we're connected or following them.
Outside on the crowded streets of Afrin, the mood is very different from other parts of Syria. The city's residents have been joined by refugees from all over the north, not just Kurds, but Arabs too.
One of the things you notice as soon as you arrive in Afrin is there are crowds of people crammed into this tiny little city, and they appear much more relaxed than they are in other parts of Syria. This has become a sanctuary for those trying to escape the war.
But the Kurds in Turkey have increased attacks in the last few months. The government in Ankara suspects that they're being supported by Damascus. Hafiz Abdulrahman works with the Syrian government in exile. He thinks that this is possibly true, but it doesn't mean the Syrian Kurds aren't committed to changing their own regime.
Of course the Syrian government will try to do this and try to provoke the PKK in Turkey, because they always did the same thing, in Lebanon and Palestine, in the Arabic Gulf with the Shiites. But the question is, will these groups decide to support tyranny or not?
In one small corner of Syria, the flag of an autonomous Kurdish state is flying. And while the Kurds deny they're seeking independence, this conflict may have awoken aspirations to stand on their own. Tony Chang, CCTV, Afrin, Syria.